And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil. And this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 10 through 11. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Commerce. I'm your host, Cooper Peterson, and today we will be joined by our guest, Bill Woods the First. Bill Woods is the co-founder of 50 Marketing, a marketing agency that specializes in the B2B and manufacturing and space. We're going to cover a variety of topics, including AI, what to look for in starting a business, how to find your niche in business, how to steward business for God's glory, among a variety of other topics. Y'all, very excited for this episode. I hope you find it enjoyable. Without further ado, let's dive in. So, Bill, what do you think about AI?
Yeah, so Cooper, I think it's on everybody's mind. You can't go anywhere today without having the AI conversation. And certainly in our little area of the world, we're not dealing at the Fortune 500 or the ecosystem level. But I think where most people need to understand and entrepreneurs need to understand about AI is it can impact your business today. And everybody, I think, at this point knows how to go into ChatGPT or whatever AI.
Everyone's a prompt engineer mostly at this
point. Oh my!
Everybody type it up.
every person on the planet's LinkedIn profile now has like three things: who they are, what they do, and they're a prompt engineer, right? And certainly if they're a college student, they know that space, right? Because that's how I think a lot of these kids are getting through college. But anyway,
writing papers and stuff.
So
that's how they're doing it.
Yeah. Prompt engineering, I think everybody's learning how to do that, and we're getting better at extracting information more quickly. And that's like phase one. Phase two that we've seen is developing your own custom AI agents, even at a small scale company like ours, where these agents are able to make decisions based off of inputs.
So you're you have agents for 50 Marketing.
We're developing those so that they can interact with information and start to make decisions. So the first bit that we talked about is you can apply AI to your daily life for what are called timeless tasks. So let's say, for instance, historically, we would have one of our analysts spend 30 to 50 hours scouring the internet, doing research, reading reports, looking everywhere for information about a specific client, industry, their competitors, a full, I think the guys and gals who work at McKinsey and some of these consultants who charge ridiculous fees for that research, they've got some headwinds ahead of them. But we're able to take those timeless tasks and truncate them. We still need a human being then to read and analyze and digest it. If we can get the custom agents there, that's the next phase. But if we can do some of those timeless tasks with AI, those are tremendous savings, and then allow our people to do higher value work. So
define that.
So their AI is fast. The agents can be programmed to make decisions. However, there still is today in 2024, and this may change by 2025. Who knows how fast they're getting this done? But you still need people with intellectual capital and experience to analyze information to help craft strategy and make decisions. Right. And we're not talking about binary things. We're talking about, okay, we need a marketing strategy for this company. We need a business strategy taking into account multivariate analysis of macro, microeconomic conditions, all competitive forces, et cetera, to craft those things. But if we can, in this version, in this like moment that we are in, can use AI to accelerate information gathering and analysis to support those decisions, that's certainly a place we can operate in those timeless tasks. When we move to the AI agents, that's where we're actually getting those AI to actually do things, make decisions based on information that we can remove some of the human element and accelerate those processes.
Yeah, I think no, that's a very good point. I want to bring up. I was reading a book. I met this gentleman actually at the Impact Conference at Cedarville. His name is Elijah Lowe. He has a book called I think it's just Faith in AI. I've been going through it, and he made a very interesting point. So we talk about humans. From an evolutionary perspective, I don't believe in evolution, but what we would say is that humans are the ones who are the dominators, the conquerors, because we have the smarts. We're not the fastest, we're not the strongest, but we have intelligence. And so some people are worried that AI is going to completely replace humans. And there's, the worry of super intelligence, where you have the Terminators that are all bigger, stronger, and more intelligent. And what happens if AI is going to go rogue? No, but the reason I say all that is because, from a distinctly Christian perspective, we believe that we're made in the image of God. There's actually something
Sure.
unique about everyone, and everyone has value that's different than just a computer. And I think that's important to keep in mind, both as we talk about the utility of AI, as well as how there's going to be a difference in the decision making, because the AI's morals are programmed into it. Whereas,
Sure.
and there's a lot of left leaning. I don't know if you've played around with Chat GPT and asked it some political questions or things like that, but it is very well. Maybe I have too much time on my hands, but
Well,
it is left leaning. So I guess my point is that I'd still believe there is a very strong role for humans to
sure.
be the value providers, because at some point, I think, when people catch up. So right now we're in that disruptive phase, but when people catch up, it's going to be almost commoditized in a way where everyone's going to know how to do this, that, and it's going to be basic, and you're going to have to
Yep.
figure out how to distinguish yourself again. My prediction is we're going to have to figure out how to be more human again, because sometimes, I mean, you can see on the Chat GPT. I mean, I know Chat's getting better as we speak, but at least in the initial versions, you can tell that a lot of it was written by AI. They use
Sure.
certain words, a certain sentence structure. I could go on, but what I think is important is you make a very, very solid point that right now AI is developing in ways that we can actually save immense amount of time, and save more of the decision making, the critical thinking, where we use our God-given abilities to make those higher up level decisions. And I think that's really what's going to be the game changer.
Yeah. And when we look at disruptive innovation and the history of that, and I'm no historian, and I'm sure there's other people who could much more educated on this. There are always disruptions, right? It used to be that 70 or 80% of the population of the United States had an agricultural background and farmed at home and had a garden and milked a cow and did all those things, right?
And you still do.
And now, yeah, that's right. And now 1% of the population is on the farm.
Right.
Well, people have just done different things. The Industrial Revolution occurred, and we saw, more of that factory manufacturing, specialization of labor. We moved from the craftsman in each town doing it to globalization and industrialization. We're still here. In my
Right.
mind, it says, I think it's in the book of Proverbs, there's nothing new under the sun. This is
Yes.
just the next version of tools for us to use. Are
Yes.
these tools going to dramatically change the way we do business, live our lives? Yes. What's new? There's always been dramatic change. And to your point, Cooper, when we talk about learning how to become more human, we are I do not believe that AI is the catalyst for that. Social media and kids having phones is the catalyst for that movement to need to start, because and there's all these things on the internet, so I'm sure they're true, about the difference between Gen Z and Gen X and all these different things. I mean, I grew up without the internet. I grew up without a smartphone. And I see kids today who grow up with some of these things compared to ones that don't. And now parents are saying, "Oh, I'm not letting my kid get social media until they're 17 or 18." And those type of things, because they're having specifically dehumanizing impact
Mm.
on social, spiritual, physical development of children. And so I think that that moment that you described for needing to become more human or return to our humanity has already occurred. And we're
Mm.
starting to see that kind of a swing back. And AI is going to create a new moment for that, correct?
Right, right, absolutely. And I think there's that delicate balance of, it, like you said, it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool. I think if people don't jump on it now, if you don't learn about it now, there's potential for us to fall behind, because there are some companies like your company, 50 Marketing. You're going to find a way to reduce 50 hours of work down to maybe, I mean, I don't know how long it takes for AI to do it, but probably not very long, probably a matter of minutes. And
Correct.
so I think that's super important. I want to hone in on that. Um, I actually, I personally, my goal is to learn more about AI. I've done a little bit of digging around, even in the social media spot. They have bots actually that are
Sure.
connected to Chat GPT, and you can connect it to your social media. So in a marketing perspective, or you have a post where you can have a free PDF document, you can have a free SOP that you give out, and it's actually a bot that can do that, send it out, and answer questions using ChatGPT and smart responses. So you can actually, I don't know
Sure.
if you've looked at that, train your own bot for your social media needs, which is just astounding what's happening there. Uh, what I know you've been dabbling into AI in your business. What do you think are some of the most essential things, maybe the three, two or three essential things that you believe businesses, small businesses right now, maybe need to be taking into account and learning to get down to have that competitive edge?
Sure. So I think the first thing you hit the nail on the head is you got to embrace it. This isn't going away. And Elon Musk said, if you don't embrace AI, you will lose to a business that does. And I think that's a fact. So let's accept that premise that we're beyond the fact of whether it's good or bad or whatever. It's a tool. We're going to use it, and then the question is how. I think one of the things that has to happen for small businesses, and this is very difficult, is funds, resources, and calendars have to be allocated towards AI. It can't be something kind of like you mentioned where you have entertainment where you type in like political views and see what that gives you. Like, I mean, that's fun. And if you want to do that instead of binge watching Netflix, that's great. You have to go into it with a dedicated process and say, okay, I am going to solve this riddle. And these riddles are difficult, and getting the AI trained to the point where it activates in a way that there's an output takes discipline. And you have to, just like any project, you have to see it through. You need focus time to start at A and get to Z, where there's an output that is truly repeatable and scalable. So I think dedicating those resources, the most successful business owners that I am engaged with on a consistent basis who are implementing AI have the scale to have a lead AI person in their company.
Wow.
Who are like, that's what they're focused on. They're testing things. They're working with, they daily can go in and play those games, I guess. Hopefully they're not, but they can go in and do those things. So I think dedicating resources, I mean, we've now gotten to the point in companies that we have dedicated IT, we have dedicated marketing, we have dedicated HR. Is there an argument for a dedicated AI resource at different levels? I think the answer is 100% yes. And it has to be addressed.
I think you hit on a misconception that I think a lot of people have, because there is a lot of talk about AI and AI tools, but it's only a cheat code unless you actually know how to use it. And I think
Yes.
that's, you can buy the tool and put it in your toolbox, but if you can't use the hammer effectively, it's not going to be helpful. And I think AI does a lot of work for you. It can, amalgamate data and come up with summaries and things like that. But I think you hit the nail on the head. If there's not that system, that dedicated time to create that system to operate efficiently, then people are just fooling themselves.
Yeah,
So
it's
there's
just
actually, so you have to come up with that. How have you sort of been able to come up with, as you're developing, how are you creating a system of AI that allows it to work and integrate into your business?
great question. So one, we're early, right? Early in the process. But what we see is if you go to a problem and you say, okay, I want to solve this problem with AI, and you try to solve a holistic problem, you're asking for generation 5, 6, or 7 of AI, and we're in 1 or 2. Right now, I believe AI can solve steps in a problem. And you have to break every problem down and then start to attack each one. If you go to AI and say, fix my revenue problem, fix my expense problem, too big of a question, right?
Mm.
So we need to say, and so we need to have a project map of what we're doing with all the to-dos and the tasks and the conditionals, all the stuff, and then start to integrate and have AI solve problems and find that critical path. And we have to make sure it has a beginning, middle, and an end, and something comes to fruition. Anybody can go to AI today. We could do it right now on this call and say, let's go solve a problem and start a conversation with ChatGPT and a thread and ask a lot of questions and get to that answer. And then at the end of it, we'd have a neat document.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo, right? What's that going to do for us?
Exactly.
Well, if it's something that takes one of our team members 10 hours a week to do, and we can build that, and then it can take that team member 20 minutes to do, because we have that like beginning, middle, end, and it actually produces a product, I think that gives us something. Then we can build towards AI agents that we can get to the point where they can actually go through those processes and accelerate their step in problem solving. But we're a little bit away from that, right? We have to build a lot of information and modeling and prompts into the process to make that work.
So are you building your own AI agents, or is another company going in to do that for you?
Great question. So we are in the stages of determining how we're going to go about that. We have, and I'm probably not the best person to talk like in that level of detail. John handles all that here. He's our dedicated AI guy.
Love to talk to him, actually.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
I can't. He's fellow co-owner, my business partner for forever. He handles the operations, and he's taking like his new focus is AI, and then he has someone else he's working with on that. The question remains: at what level do you need to have savings to do your own, or rent other people who are trying to solve problems and scaling up those kind of AI SaaS opportunities? So we're still investigating that, and I think the jury is out, and there'll have to be some type of cost benefit model to look at where the
Right.
break even is and those type of things. But I think I would say we're 6 months to a year from having a really great model, because I also think any simple answer to any complex question is usually wrong. So in some cases, it will make sense to build our own custom AI agent. In other senses, it'll be like, oh, we can rent this from somebody else for this, and it's like it's already done. Let's go. So my guess is we will end up where we always end up, is with a hybrid model.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you diving into that. I think it's really interesting. I'm trying to understand how to apply it on a smaller scale, right? If you're a solopreneur, things like that. There's a lot of interesting tools out there. I almost feel overwhelmed with the amount of tools. We're going to have a gentleman on the podcast at some point who's done a lot with faith and AI and things of that nature. So hopefully we'll dive into that. Bill, I didn't even think we were going to talk about AI at all today. We were just talking about it before we recorded, just hit the record button. And so now we are. Bill, I want to go back. And this is your first time on the podcast. I want to sort of go through your story, if that's okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
We talked previously, and you had actually talked about your business, your family business with your father. Can you go through some of that experience, maybe high level, but like, what was that like to be in a family business? You had an exit, and then what did that do to? I mean, I imagine maybe there was some, you're an entrepreneurial family, so
Sure.
how did that change you as you were part of that?
Sure. So, grew up in the business. Started working with my parents like from a very, very early age, on our farm. But then at 14, I was the janitor in the building I'm sitting in right now, because we still have this 10,000 square foot office building. And my parents started a business in 1991, and did about 2.5 million in revenue. We scaled that significantly and had an exit in around 2012. Tremendous growth. We had 14 John Deere dealerships. We had some manufacturing concerns. We had some retail concerns. And one of the ways, I guess, it changed me is this is something that I also heard from a colleague who owns a family business, and they're very, very successful. Is he said, everything takes about 3 times as long as you think it should. And I think even with AI, even with so for all you solopreneurs out there, all you if you have a partner or you're like trying to get started, if you're like, yeah, we're gonna hit 5 million by this and 10 million by that. Hey, set goals, have stretch goals, but also be patient with yourself, because there are headwinds and resistance that is going to come. And that is true. And it is real. And if it isn't, then you aren't playing the game. You aren't in the market. So don't think, oh, it's going to be easy. No, it's going to be hard. It's all hard. And, I encourage my kids, do hard things. Do hard things, because it makes you a better person and prepares you for what's next. And whatever that is, we don't know, right? We don't know what's next, and no one claims to. But, what did the verse say about Abraham? He went out even though he didn't know where he was going, right?
Mm.
And that I think is the right perspective for your future. Is you just got to go and do hard things and see what happens.
You hit on something really interesting, especially, I'm been in entrepreneurship for less than 2 years, I think, at this point.
Sure.
So I'm very young when it comes to understanding even the business world. Again, my degree prior, my bachelor's not even in the business school. And so when it comes to being a solopreneur, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be things that are difficult. When I first started my business, I felt like Abraham in the sense, but I wasn't called by God to go do what I was doing. I was just trying something new and random, and it was very hard. It was difficult. It was expensive. Learned a lot of expensive mistakes. What do you think that? What should say somebody's on the edge of taking their idea and making it a reality, starting that business? What would you recommend? Do you just say go for it, dive in the deep end, figure it out as you go? Is that your mentality, or is it more like take baby steps, plan extensively, go? You kind of get where I'm getting at here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So what is my way, or what is the right way, or the wise way? So let's be very careful. So
Okay.
my father, myself, the way we always did it, we just went as hard as we could. And
Just
if there was
jump into the deep end with your hands tied behind your back, you're gonna figure it out.
Go. Yeah. And I think if there was a lesson we learned in what we did, I think one of the big takeaways is we were in too many businesses simultaneously that we were trying to scale up. So I think there's a lot of the very popular business coach or thought leaders in entrepreneurship, like that are very common with the younger folks, like Hermosi, Dan Martell, Chris Williamson, and some of these guys who have a very large platform on the socials. They say focus on one niche. And back in probably the late 90s and early 2000s, there was more of a push for diversification. And, we learned some of those lessons. So I think dive in. And the other thing I would add to that, though, is Peter Drucker talked about this, is that most entrepreneurs are risk adverse because they want to know everything about what they're doing. They want to know. Here's a classic example. Senior year college had a class that was some type of capstone class, whatever that means. And it had a model in a computer, which back in 99, that was pretty cutting edge, 1,000 years ago, where we had to make decisions based on these inputs they gave you to try and get the program to react and run this business through. I found it terribly frustrating because, to me, having grown up in an entrepreneurial family, having worked every summer, evening, Christmas break, etc., in my family business, there was not enough information for me to feel comfortable with the decisions. Whereas, and I went to the professor, I was like, yeah, I don't think you're giving us enough information to really make the decisions because you just want us to make these assumptions. Oh, if we have a premium product at a premium price and then we hire this, it'll go this way. Well, that's potentially true, but what are the details that would support each of those decisions? And that wasn't available in the model. So I think, entrepreneurs to a certain extent are risk averse because they want to know everything about it. And they're more comfortable investing in themselves than they are in other kind of passive income models. So, but like once you research and figure out and are somewhat confident in the bet you're making, because entrepreneurship is betting. And I'm not talking about illegal gambling. It's completely legal right there. But
Kids,
you
this
may,
is completely legal.
yeah. You make bets, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. That's it. And sometimes you can win when you shouldn't, and sometimes you lose when you shouldn't. And I think one of the things I've really come to a conclusion on, and I guess I'm getting old, is Chris Williamson talks a lot about this in one of his outputs. In 50 years, everybody I know will be dead. So if what's holding me back is what others think about me, I have never cared what people think about me. Outside of my family, I could not care less. Like what car I drive, what house I live in, like I don't care. So if I go out and fail, so be it. I don't care. Right. But I don't want to, but let's just go and do our best and see what happens. So I think when you're looking at entrepreneurship, as long as you recognize you do your research, you work really hard, but then once you go, the market does not reward people for partial participation. The market rewards people for complete investment and immersion.
So you're jumping into the deep end with a plan, a pretty good idea of how you're going to swim out.
Absolutely, yeah. But once you go, I think the famous analogy is you burn the boats, right? Yes. Cortez, you burn the boats, and you say to the troops and the team, we have two options: we win or we die. That's it. There's no turning back. Now, that's my way. What is the right and the wise way? I'm sure there are many other people who could give you better advice and guidance as to what is the right and the wise way. But that's the way I've always done it.
No, it's a fascinating question, because for people who are just starting, the question is, they have, in my situation, very limited experience. Very limited experience. I jumped in to the deep end on a project I was working on without preparing, without knowing how I'm going to swim out. I burned the boats without a plan going forward. And I don't think that's not what we're advocating for. But if you're going to actually win in entrepreneurship, you have to go into the deep end. But before you dive off the diving board, before you burn the boats, you have to have that focus ahead and a plan on how you're going to get there. And that's something that we talk about. AI, we talk about entrepreneurship. Sometimes people think if you just buy the tool, if you just take the big risk, then you deserve success. It's not how it works. You got to really work it out. And so, no, I really appreciate your response there. Do you think that entrepreneurship, do you subscribe to the belief that it's more of a nature thing, that you're born with the sort of the tenacity, the drive to do it, or do you think it's more of how you grew up?
Wow, nature and nurture. We're getting deep here. So the reality is, I don't know that I can answer that question, because I only know my experience. I know what I grew up in. I know my reality.
Do you think you would have been an entrepreneur if your parents weren't?
No idea. Because so my dad was here in the office today. He just got back from Florida, and he was in the office today because it's in his blood. It's in our blood. We sat down and talked business at lunch. It was great because they've been gone for like 50 days. And when I call him and talk to him when they're on the road, we always take some time and talk business, because he's still invested in us, in watching us and participating, providing advice and guidance. So for us, it has been a family affair, which is very traditional in that multiple generations are active simultaneously. My children are active. Whether it's at the farm or here at the office. Our podcast and the success of the launch there was due to Will, who you know well, my eldest son, and Noah, my second oldest son, who participated in helping launch that. So we believe in really providing opportunities that are multi-generational and continue to keep people involved. However, do I believe I would have been an entrepreneur? I think that question, so a couple of things. Entrepreneurship is an absolute manifestation of self-discipline and the ability to manage yourself beyond survival into your entire business and professional space. So if you look at, and I'm not
Did
saying
you make
this,
that up on the spot?
yes. So no, but I believe it
That's
because when
great.
you look at it, so let's say I'm getting to a point that may be approaching a significant birthday soon in the next several years, but let's not talk about what that number is because I still want to feel good about myself today.
Is it
But
related to 50 marketing or is that
it may be,
50?
but I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
But when you look at your personal development and you think about, okay, you go through these phases in life where you have to diet more, exercise more, or those type of things, and those are those daily disciplines of health and wellness and spirituality and your commitment to your community and your family. Those are activities of self-discipline. They're not about being motivated or feeling like it. It's just about doing it because you know you should and you have to. And every one of us who isn't a liar struggles with those things every day.
So
Well,
entrepreneurship is not, it's not as glamorous as it's all made out. It's not Starbucks. Starbucks entrepreneurship really is an entrepreneur. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely. And when you look at if you go and work for a big corporation or a company, they provide that level or should structure and discipline for individuals so that they don't also have to mind that part of it. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to create that structure, that self-discipline, and the apply the energy to accomplish that. This is also true, and I've come to this perspective. This is also true when our family has decided to insource the education of our children through homeschooling. So we don't get up in the morning and put our kids on the bus and then allow someone else to provide the structure, the motivation, the tools, the research, the management of the education of our children. We are doing that work. So 99% of that is my wife, but she is putting all of that energy into that function. So that is an entrepreneurial venture for her because we don't like just rent a system or get a charter school thing. It's all custom crafted to each child based on their abilities and interests and what we feel will help them to experience resistance and doing hard things so that they develop. So whenever it takes more energy. And also all of the failures are on you. Right? Like
That
if
if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to hold that. You have to be able to hold that weight, and that's something I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs need to understand: is are you going to be capable to hold that responsibility?
yes.
That's a very real question. I don't know if everyone really takes that into account. It's one of the reasons why I'm an advocate for people when they're young to start something because they're all, if you're a little bit averse to, if you don't have a family, if you don't have kids,
Sure.
if you're just, that I'm, your son, Will, he's a great fan, really, really an encouragement and inspiring. He is just doing everything. He's the president of 3 different organizations and he's right. Did he tell you we're launching another podcast? Did he mention that to you?
He said something about it the other day and I was like, okay, great. Well, and so I think there's some truth to that. And like to get into like, okay, couple of things. And if there's any advice I can offer you young entrepreneurs, number one, make sure whoever you partner with in life is also committed to the journey because you as an entrepreneur, Cooper, are not going to be in this alone. Your wife will carry that burden, enjoy the success, and also feel every failure with you. And like, I'm dead serious about this because I have some colleagues whose significant other, partner, whatever their situation is not understanding or supportive. And their life is not comfortable. It is not fun. And there is no peace in their house. Because if we don't get the big deal, if we, oh man, they're on each other. Right. And I've been very fortunate. I outkicked my coverage, which was a way in our age group of saying that I married up. But my wife has put up with tremendous peaks and valleys in this entrepreneurial journey, and she's got ice water in her veins. Doesn't, yep, all good, you'll figure it out. Whereas some people can't handle that, And you need to be very clear and honest with that significant other about the life journey you're going on, because it is not for the faint of heart.
It goes back to, in my opinion, the question of what is your why? The
Sure.
WHY. What do you have to find somebody. I'm very fortunate to have somebody I just got engaged. She's jumping on the
Congratulations.
wagon, and
Yep.
she's going to be in for the ride. And I tell her, I say this. I mean, entrepreneurship. There's ups and downs. It's challenging. It goes back to your why, though. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you marrying this person? Is it
Sure.
for security in terms of finances? The way I am starting to view things is, go back to the Chris Williamson quote. No one I know is going to know me. Everyone's going to be dead in, for me, maybe 75 years. Hopefully, it's a little bit different because you're not that much older than me, Bill. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying, but life
Sure.
life is short. God gives us stewardship, the ability to steward what we have. My view, I'm trying to focus. It's not on myself. It's not on financial security. It's on, what does God have for me? What does God place in front of me? What do I think is the best way to steward what He's given me? And
Yes.
I believe entrepreneurship is a gift that God gives a lot of people. An idea, a business, the ability to follow through. I think that has to be communicated and agreed upon with the spouses, from my understanding. From I've heard stories as well that you've described where there is that the expectations were not clearly shown. But deeper than that, what is the why? Work. The more that I'm getting more into the real world, the more I realize that I want to spend the 40 hours a week that I'm working, you know, on something that is actually going to be eternally impactful.
Sure.
And I love entrepreneurship because there is more freedom to choose how to go about doing, or how you influence others. There's the stat that you have so much more influence as an entrepreneur, even oftentimes more than a pastor has.
Sure.
And so entrepreneurship is a huge ministry impact. This actually connects really great into one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what do you think biblical stewardship looks like in a business? And maybe you can tie family into that as well. And ultimately, at the end of the day, why does it matter? And then why does it matter to you personally?
Sure. So, my perspective is that really anything we have is not ours. We're just keeping track of it, for like God has given that for us to keep track of. And whether we're that shepherd, that's kind of the example that's used a lot in the Bible of the sheep, or there's so many parables in the Bible about business, about farming, which that was the business of the time, right? Because people were just
Right.
trying to eat. Um, so I think when we look at it as we're just stewards of it, we're here to manage it and take care of it to the best of our abilities. That's number one. Number two, giving. Very focused on Matthew 6. My personal opinion and belief is that giving should be done in quiet. Um, some folks in my family who are older than me, that's all I'll say, gave extensively and were able to bless many organizations and people. You will never see their name on a building. You will never see their name written anywhere. In fact, the admonition was, as you receive this, if you were ever to communicate where it came from, that would be the last you would see. Just
Wow.
because that's the belief. That's been our
Right.
family's belief for a long time, and certainly this generation. So yeah, I think one, everybody's life's short. Stuff and money to accumulate it for the sake thereof is foolish, meaningless. I think would be the word that's quoted.
Yes.
But I think being challenged, doing hard things, taking risks, pushing yourself, there's more. You will learn more about yourself personally and spiritually by being on the edge than you will by being in the comfort. And if you're going for a comfortable career, good for you. hopefully you find your ability to find that edge and do hard things outside of your job. And we need lots of people to do that. And that's a great
Absolutely.
calling, and that's important. But if you can
Absolutely.
if you want to be an entrepreneur, the other thing I would suggest to people is don't try to be the label.
What do you
Don't
mean
try
by
to
that?
don't try to be an entrepreneur. Be passionate about solving a problem, about producing a product, about getting something done, and then that will catapult you into a possible way of monetizing it and owning your own business and running it. If it's just, hey, I want to go own businesses, I mean, that's almost like a private equity, venture capital, angel investor type of approach where it's more about pushing paper and moving assets around. But
Mm.
if you want to be more of an entrepreneur that creates a bigger scalable impact, look for ways to solve problems or create products that make people's lives better, and then the rest of it will work itself out. If it's just money for money, oh, I want to go make a lot of money, that's a hard and very competitive space. And so many people fail at that because it is so hard, because it's not, it goes back to your why question. Why are you doing it? It's not mission
Exactly.
driven. It's not something that's able to be um, grown. And then I think the other thing is just, if you're just going after money, you will become disenfranchised really quickly. If you go out and you buy a $200,000 car, 4 or 5 weeks later, it's just your car. It just gets you back and forth to at some point in time, as you escalate, or as you keep moving up that income ladder and indulgence ladder, it's meaningless. It doesn't matter, and you won't enjoy it. I mean, I've certainly have never reached those places where I've been dumb enough, or uh, I'm too frugal to pay $200,000 for a car. But a lot of people do, and that's their thing, and that's their why. Good for them. I'm not judging them. They can make their own decisions with their own money. But I think that's a fool's errand to pursue those type of things.
So what would you, if you had to like name the thing that we should all be reaching for, looking for? If it's not money, then what is it?
So one of the things that I struggle with the most, and this has been like probably like a 10-year journey of understanding, is we have this American construct that says the pursuit of happiness. And we hear so much about happiness. We should be happy. And I don't think that's true. What does the Bible say? Be holy. Right. So if we're searching for that and we're always living as though that would be the goal, that's what we should be doing. If we can then do that through our careers and everything we do, that's what it's about. Because happiness is a byproduct of what we do. It is not what we pursue, because we are only guaranteed, since the fall of man, death and destruction and pain and heartache and toil. So we have to transcend that and say, okay, what can we try to approach that will allow us to have the most fulfillment in life? It has to be holiness, and becoming more like God, and those type, that construct. So that's what I believe is what we should shoot for. That's very like metaphysical and philosophical and spiritual. But then when we look at what should we pursue as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, um, the goal is never to finish. It's to keep playing, to keep going. The worst thing I see in entrepreneurs is people who retire. They're miserable when they retire because they like playing the game. They like being in the game. And if you can just keep playing as long as you can, that's the goal. It's just to keep participating, because that's what's helping you get to that next level. Be better, be holy, not happy.
It's
But
stewardship. I mean,
yeah,
as long as you can, it's like that's
yep,
you're stewarding. Maybe it's you're stewarding your time, your skills. I mean, I know someone. There are many older gentlemen that are in the game still because that is what God has blessed them with. And so
sure.
maybe they're not, on Wall Street, or maybe they're not, the CEOs of these massive companies anymore. But you have 70, 80-year olds who say, look, God has gifted me with these things. What can I even do with younger entrepreneurs? Can I go alongside and mentor them and bring them up? And so, no, I think it's something my dad says. He's like, I'm never going to retire. And
Yes.
I think that is absolutely, you know, that is stewardship,
Yes.
right? You're stewarding your body, what God's given you, to be holy and to use biblical principles to carry out the work He has for you. So I think
Yes.
that's fantastic. Bill, I want to cover one more topic. I know,
Sure.
really, I think half of the things that we've discussed, Bill, I didn't even have on my my list of things I wanted to ask you, but I think it's been a fantastic conversation so far.
Loved
I
it.
want to get
Yep.
to 50 marketing. One of
Sure.
the things you guys have done really well is you found your niche. The saying, there's
Sure.
riches in the niches. You've probably heard that before.
Oh
Niche,
yeah.
niche, however you say it. But you guys have found it. Could you walk me through? Because I think it's something younger entrepreneurs are going to have to figure out: is where's the niche? How did you guys find that niche? What did that process look like? Was it immediate? Did it take time? What did that look like?
So I think one of the challenges young entrepreneurs face is they'll go on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or wherever they consume their content, and they see these super successful people who are in year 15 or 20 of their journey, and they've scaled. Maybe they had an exit, they found their niche, and they were super successful. What that moment or that short video doesn't explain is the 2 or 3 years of grind, research, and absolute peril that they went through to figure it out. And you have to do a lot of research. You just have to dive in and put the work in. And now there's so many free resources out there about how to figure out your niche, right? You can download white papers, you can read books, whatever. I think the key though is if you're on that journey, is the first thing you have to accept is failure. Because if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough and you're not testing enough things. So don't look to be successful in a niche. Look to fail quickly and learn and move on in a niche until you arrive, because there are no shortcuts. There is no Cooper's going to go home tonight and put 5 on his vision board and pick one, and that's going to be the right one. Right. Oh, I think this is the right one. I'm going to research it for a month. I'm going to read every book about that subject I can find. I'm going to listen to every podcast. I'm going to interview everybody I can. I'm going to be risk adverse as an entrepreneur and know more than everybody else about this subject. Then, okay, now I'm getting ready to jump in. Hands tied behind my back to bring this full circle. I'm ready to jump in and burn the boats. Then don't assume that you're going to be successful. Assume you are going to fail a lot. Be okay with that. Learn quickly, pick yourself back up, and then go find the path to success through the feedback of the market where you find the wins. So that would be my recommendation. One of the mistakes I made early in my career, and this is one of the reasons why I don't encourage my kids to shoot for like having a perfect GPA, is we educate children to get good grades and get stimulus from that feedback of being as close to perfection as they can. And not to say anything bad about college, but the university systems are very similarly structured.
True.
We should be willing to encourage everybody to fail more, not because they didn't do the work, but because they tried things that didn't work out. And the educational system is, did you do the work or not? And did you get a level of being able to regurgitate information and or perform tasks based on what you were trained to do, which is great for factory workers. But for entrepreneurs and people who need to figure things out, you have to transcend that and you have to say, okay, I'm willing to test this hypothesis and see if it works and see if it fails or not. So that, I think, is you have to change your mindset of trying to get an A in everything and try 5 things and be like, great, I got 2 Fs. What is that? That is amazing, definitive feedback from the market, from the invisible hand, that I should not go down that path. That's what that is. It's not a failure, it's feedback. So
It's not failure, it's feedback. I love it.
there's a book. Like, we should write it. We'll get KO to publish it. We're good,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Well, look, Bill, I really appreciated having you on. You're just a wealth of knowledge. You're a mentor to me. And more ways than you know. Look into me and your son and Aaron Perry. We're launching a little podcast, a little project. So
Love it.
that'll be coming out soon. I'm actually going to film after this recording here. I'll see him tonight. So I'll say hello for you. But look, really appreciate you having you on. I have two more things before we wrap up.
Let's do it.
The one is I'm starting this thing where I have the guest from the previous episode ask a question to the next guest.
Let's do it.
And I got to be completely transparent. Last time I forgot to do it. And this time I forgot to look up the question exactly. So I'm going to do my best to. So Travis Smith asked the question to the next guest. And he said, where are you currently investing in the marketplace, or where are some current places that might be ideal to invest in?
Sure. So I've always been a big believer in investing in myself because I'm risk
I like that answer. That's sort of like the backdoor answer. I love it. Love it.
So like, I'm not a crypto guy. I'm not an equities guy. I don't believe I can outsmart the market because that's not what I do every day. Right. And even if you listen to like Buffett and Munger and some of those guys, or look at Value Investing by Benjamin Graham, nobody is smart enough to do that. And I certainly am not. So I believe in being risk adverse, investing in what I do, and trying to scale up enough to be able to always stay ahead of that. That's always been my goal. So, and that is not prescriptive. That is what I have done. Whether that is right, whether that is wise, that's for everybody else to determine for themselves.
I think it makes sense. I mean, right, especially when you're young, and if you have time in college, like investing in yourself, learning a skill, that's
yes.
not going to go away. And that there are some places that you can look to see what skills are going to be needed. We already talked about in the beginning, AI. I think somebody who knows how to use AI, I think that person is going to be very, very valuable.
Yes.
In the future. So things like that, like learning on the side how to invest in yourself and knowledge and skills. I think that's a fantastic answer. Bill, I don't know who our next guest is. Actually, I do know. I do know who our next guest. I'm not going to tell you though. I'm interviewing him tonight. What would your question be for him to answer?
Great. So Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. What ways have you worked harder on yourself that have produced tremendous outsized results on your career than you would have ever seen by working extra hours and extra time in your actual job?
Tremendous.
That's a hard one, right?
I'm gonna have to write that down to make sure I say that perfectly. Well, look, Bill, you've really encouraged me. And look, here at Kingdom Commerce, we're all about encouraging, empowering, equipping Christian entrepreneurs, the practices, the principles to succeed in the marketplace and glorify God. Bill, thank you so much for joining. Y'all, this is Kingdom Commerce, where we do commerce the kingdom way. We'll see you next time.